NFL free agency is coming up, and there's a lot of rumors out there. Today, I'm going to talk about a few of them and go over a few of the upcoming free agents and their dynasty impacts. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. And unfortunately, my co-host, Dale Terry, is not in today. This nasty bug that's going around, it got him. It got him good. So he'll be back next week. But today, I'm excited to be going over some of the NFL rumors coming out of the Combine and also NFL free agency that's coming up here next week. It's going to be a good time. And there are a lot of fantasy relevant players at all of the positions that might be on the move here in the next couple of days. So wanted to give you guys some thoughts on it and some players that I would consider buying low if it were me. Now, before we get into that, if you can, please follow me on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter at FFAfterDark. And while you're there, if you can, go over to the YouTube channel, the Rumble channel, Spotify, if you're listening on audio, Apple, Google, anywhere the podcasts are found. If you can please like the video and subscribe to the channel for all the content that we have coming out here in the next couple of weeks, that would be hugely helpful for me and the podcast, just because we want to grow this thing and get it out there to more people. And we also like to hear you guys' feedback. So if you can leave a comment down below, whether you agree with some of my takes here today or not, I love to hear from you guys. And it honestly, I know it sounds cheesy and it's like, oh, they don't really care what I have to say. I really genuinely do like to hear from you guys. I like comments. I like interacting with you guys in the comments. You know, some of the videos have more than others, but it's always a good time. So if you can, leave a comment down below as well. Just want to hear from you guys. And we try and hit up every single one of them that we can. So anytime that we get a comment, we try and hit it up. So that said, let's go into a couple of the free agents that are going to be coming up and some of the rumors that are coming out of the Combine. A few of these have already kind of lived up to the billing. Russell Wilson was a big Combine guy. Lots of talk about him being cut, whether he's going to come back to the Broncos this upcoming season, and they ultimately let him go. So he's out there interviewing with a lot of people, and I just find it funny that last week during the Combine, the Steelers were, no, we're not interested. We're going to roll with Kenny Pickett. No, we're not interested. In Justin Fields, we're going to keep going with Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph. One of these two guys is going to lead this team going forward. And literally the first day that Russ is considered a free agent, he's in Pittsburgh meeting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So just find that funny. And I guess we can start there with my predictions. I do think that Russell Wilson will go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to sign like a vet minimum contract with them, leave the Broncos with the ultimate bag. They're going to be paying him a ton of money, and it's going to be rough if you're a Denver fan. I might do a video on them here in the next couple of weeks. Let me know, again, with the comments. That's where the comments can really come in handy. Let me know any topics that you guys want to hear, but if you guys are interested in hearing a Denver breakdown and what to do with the assets on this team from a fantasy football perspective, let me know, or just even interested in my thoughts from a real world perspective and what I think about that. So Russell Wilson is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now for fantasy, I do think that he's going to be fine for himself. You know, Russell Wilson in terms of value right now, and you know, I'm using a combination of a few different ranking websites, but I just want to check the value on Russell Wilson. Currently quarterback 30, and I get it. Russell Wilson he's scary right now, but he's going behind Daniel Jones. He's going behind Will Levis, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young, Bo Nix, the rookie, J.J. McCarthy. Russell Wilson was a top 12 fantasy asset last year, and I get it. It's scary, and it's not the most reassuring thing, but Russell Wilson is going dirt cheap in Superflex leagues and even one quarterback leagues, and I think with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has a floor of, you know, probably 12 to 18, somewhere in that range. So him going 12 position spots later than what his actual floor is crazy cheap for him. So I would be snatching up Russell Wilson out there if you can. I do think that there's going to be a lot of value for him in the next couple of weeks. As for the weapons on his team, I do think that he's going to be good for guys like George Pickens. I think he's a massive improvement for George Pickens. Russell Wilson still throws a very pretty deep ball. It wasn't on display that well in Denver, and I don't know, there's a lot of people that are just putting all of what happened in Denver on Russell Wilson, but you go from Nathaniel Hackett, who is by far one of the worst offensive coordinators I've ever seen in the NFL. He proved it with Denver, and then he proved it with the Jets as well. His concepts and his play schemes are just terrible. To, Sean Payton, who is a very, very good coach, but his play calling was horrendous last year. And to me, it honestly felt like he was trying to sabotage Russell Wilson. And I know this is like galaxy brain conspiracy theory stuff, but, there were multiple times where the plays that he called, you're just like, what is this play? Like, it was just a bad play design, and he called him on critical situations, and then he'd get frustrated by his bad play design. Now, is that bad implementation by Russ? Maybe, and we'll find out here in Pittsburgh. But I do think people are kind of railing on Russ and giving him more blame than is probably necessary. It's probably like 70-30. Peyton, I don't know, man. It was not a great system. We've never seen Sean Payton without Drew Brees. So I'm just saying, is it possible? We have a Bill Belichick situation over here where Drew Brees made Sean Payton look a lot better. I don't know. That's for you guys to tell me. But I do think Russ is going to be good for George Pickens. I think he's going to be good for Deontay Johnson. I think Najee is going to really help. If they can just make sure that this offensive line is good, I think this entire offense is going to be massively devalued compared to what it's going to be in a year's time. All right, going to the next guy here. Kirk Cousins is the big one. He's going to be a free agent, and a lot of people thought he was just going to go back to the Minnesota Vikings, and it's really heating up now that he's going to be going to the Atlanta Falcons. And if I had to put money, if I'm betting on DraftKings right now or FanDuel or whatever, I'm putting my money on Atlanta Falcons. He has family down there. His wife's family is from there. It's a very good system. He likes Kevin O'Connell, and I get that, but the Atlanta Falcons low-key have a very, very good offensive line, very young weapons, and it's a same style of system that he's used to. It's that West Coast Sean McVay system, so it's not going to be a big learning curve for him over there. And honestly, it's a dome, so it's an easy division. Not saying that the NFC North is really that hard, but the Lions are looking good. The Bears with Caleb Williams, maybe they're going to be looking a little bit better. Packers are low-key really good with Jordan Love. So he gets to go to the NFC South, man, and it's Bryce Young, Derek Carr, and Baker Mayfield probably for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So it's a very winnable division for sure, and good weapons. So Kirk Cousins down to Atlanta is the rumor, and I'm actually buying into that. I think that it's going to happen. So then that kind of leaves Fields as a question mark, right? And I talked about, I think that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. The only way I could see that not happening is if someone comes in with a just insane offer for the first overall pick. And all the rumors are that the Bears have pretty much already locked and loaded Caleb Williams as their guy. Caleb Williams doesn't really want to go there from all the rumors as well. But you don't really always have a choice. Maybe we're going to see an Eli Manning situation where he works and forces his way out of Chicago to a new system. But yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. But dude, if it was me, honestly, I get it. Justin Fields has not been what everybody kind of wanted him to be. I think he's a good player. He needs to develop further. I don't think that the system has done him any favors over the last couple of years, but it's hard to tell, right? If it's Fields, if it's the system, if it's both. That's the problem with a lot of these offenses in the NFL right now is so many of them, we just assume that it's the player and not the system, right? Now, Denver, for example, with Russ, I give more credit to Sean Payton that he can create a good system, and it just was not a good fit with Russ, right? We've seen it with Sean Payton before that he's run a successful offense. We've never seen it with the head coach or the offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, I think that's his name. It's blanking on me for some reason right now, but we've never seen it before. He came from Green Bay as the quarterback coach to be the offensive coordinator for Chicago. We don't know it's going to be a successful offense, and we'll find out here with them in the Raiders, but that kind of leads me to Fields. Where's Fields going to go? Pittsburgh's out. Atlanta's probably out. That leaves Minnesota, and I don't see that happening. I really don't. That leaves the Raiders. There's a few other, the Patriots, some of these other teams here. I honestly, if I had to put money down, I think it's going to be the Raiders. And I think Luke Getsy, all the rumors are that him and Fields actually had a pretty good relationship. Now, I don't think it's a very good offense, and maybe Getsy can get it together and kind of take that step up in terms of being an OC. But, man, I think that they're ultimately going to make a splash because the Raiders need to get something done. They don't have the greatest situation in terms of draft picks and everything like that, cap space, everything. So why not make a splash with Justin Fields? You can keep your 12th overall pick. You don't have to send a massive package to move up into the top 5, 8 picks, so you can get one of these, like the quarterback 4 or 5 in this draft class, because they're going hot and heavy supposedly in the first round here. So I think the Raiders are ultimately going to get Justin Fields. That's where I'm going to put my money on it. And from a fantasy perspective, I think that's great. Devontae Adams is going to be great for Justin Fields. Very reliable guy, just like DJ Moore was. And Fields is going to be able to make Devontae, he's going to feed him, right? And then you go to Jacoby Myers as the 2. I do think Jacoby Myers is a lot better than Darnell Mooney, who's also a free agent this year. So they've got Michael Mayer, the rookie at tight end, who's hopefully going to be able to take a step forward there. Hopefully they bring back Josh Jacobs. All the rumors are that they want to bring him back as well. Their offensive line is not terrible, and you get a mobile guy, it kind of helps it a little bit. So I think Fields is going to the Raiders, and that's where I'm going to put my money. Now that kind of leaves the Vikings as the odd man out. Who are they going to get? You look at some of the other free agents, and I already talked about it. Baker, he's technically a free agent, but all signs are they re-signed Mike Evans to a multi-year contract. They're going to re-sign Baker Mayfield as well. The team wants him back. He wants to be there. They did so well last year. He's not going to take a massive discount, but I don't think he's going to be record-breaking money as well. So it's just going to be a good situation for him over in Tampa Bay. He's going to get probably he's probably going to get a 4-year contract that's really a 2-year contract, if you know what I mean, where they can cut him after 2 years. But Baker's going to be going back to Tampa Bay, so I don't really consider him as one of these guys because there's been no indications that they're going to let him out. You look at the other guys, though, that are free agents. You got Ryan Tannehill, you got Jacoby Brissett, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz. It leaves not a great taste in your mouth. I don't think any of those guys are starters. They're all backups at this point in their careers. Maybe Wentz, you could, if you wanted to have a bridge guy for a year, bring him in with a rookie to kind of just go head-to-head for the training camp and, or Tannehill, and just see if they can push that rookie. But Tannehill doesn't really strike me as much of a coaching type of guy. Wentz clearly wasn't when he was with Jalen Hurts over in Philly, so I don't know if any of these guys really want to, and they're all pretty young. Brissett's the only one where I could see him accepting that role as more of a mentor, but Darnold also, they're just young guys. They're not really, they still want to fight for a starter's role in the league. I don't think that they want to accept backup roles just yet. So if you're Minnesota, it kind of leaves you with the Trey Lance rumors, which is the another rumor that is coming out of Indy and the Combine, is they're going to bring Trey Lance home. Trey Lance is originally from the area, right? North Dakota State, I believe, is where he went to college, and Dallas got him for a 4th-round pick last year. He's still on a pretty good cost-control contract. They're probably going to bring back Dak Prescott in Dallas. He's not a free agent, but he's on the last year of his deal. Lots of rumors are that they're going to not extend Dak Prescott and just eat the $60 million cap for him this year. So that kind of leaves Lance in a weird spot. You're going to have to pay him a lot of money next year because of his 5th-year option. So if you can get out on him for a 5th round pick, and if you're Minnesota, man, honestly, they're sitting at 13 in the draft or 12 in the draft, 11, somewhere in that range. I don't know right offhand. They're in the teens, the early teens, right? You can send a package to get into the top 5 for J.J. McCarthy, who I'm not a big fan of, but you can send 2 first-round picks, the 11, a first, and a second, 2 seconds, whatever it is. It's going to be a massive package to get into the top 5 to go and get a J.J. McCarthy or a Bo Nix or one of these guys. Whoever your 4th guy is, or Drake May, for example, if he falls down the board a little bit. Or you send a 5th-round pick for Trey Lance, and you pay him for 1 year. You see what he's got, and if you're bad, you're going to be right in prime position to draft a top guy in next year's class. So why are we trying to sell all of our assets when, Minnesota is a good team, but Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson kind of elevated that team above where it needed to be the last couple of years, right? They're not a locked and loaded playoff contender, right? They do have quite a few holes on that team, especially on the defensive side. You're giving up multiple picks to go and get a quarterback who is a crapshoot, right? To hopefully be the franchise face of your team. Why not just give Trey Lance a shot, right? Trey Lance is younger than Michael Penix. He's younger than Bo Nix. Again, I am the conservative type. I do not like trading up. I don't like doing it because so often these guys it's a crapshoot, right? They're gambles. You don't know that these guys are going to be successes. You hope that they are. And obviously, if you're sending multiple picks, you believe that they are, but it doesn't make them a guaranteed success. So if it's me, I'm sending the 5th round pick for Trey Lance, or maybe a 4th round. Who cares? Like, it's a 4th rounder. Who really cares? You want that 4th rounder back? Trade back 1 spot in the draft to go from 11 to 12 or 12 to 13 or wherever they're at. Trade back 1 spot, you get that 4th back instantly. So who cares about a 4th, right? Get Trey Lance, play him for a year, see if he's any good. And everyone's saying, oh, well, Trey Lance has already proved he's a bust. Has he? He hasn't gotten to play, guys. He hasn't gotten to play. Brock Purdy beat him out. Brock Purdy's been really good these last couple of years. I get it. Trey Lance was the number 3 overall pick versus the last guy picked in that draft class. Who cares? Brock Purdy won that competition, and I'm admitting that as a huge Trey Lance fan, right? But Brock Purdy was better. I bet you Trey Lance is better than Kellen Moore, or I bet you Trey Lance is going to be better than J.J. McCarthy. I do honestly believe that. Trey Lance has been in the league for 3 years. He's going to be better than J.J. McCarthy. He's going to be better than Bo Nix. So for me, I am getting Trey Lance for a cost-controlled year who, if he's bad, then we're going to be in prime position to get a quarterback next year. We don't have to spend 3 picks or, elite level picks, especially, if their team is bad, you're sending the 11 pick, which is what I believe they're at, and a top 10 pick next year to go get J.J. McCarthy. This is like the Carolina Panthers written all over it. So give me Lance. I'm hoping, I don't know, I put that kind of 50-50 right now, but I'm really hoping that ultimately happens, and we'll see something from my boy Trey over in Minnesota. And I mean, honestly, you can't ask for a better landing spot. It's a good system. It's a West Coast system, which he's kind of got a little bit of experience. It's a little bit different from the Shanahan system. It's more the McVay style. And those guys are very similar, but slightly different. But, you've got Jordan Addison. You've got TJ Hawkinson. Eventually he'll be back. You've got Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson, I feel like, can make any quarterback, even if they're, a little bit inaccurate, look pretty damn good. So Trey Lance in Minnesota, sign me up, boys. Go and send. I just got, and for reference, right, I'm in a league, a Superflex league. I got Kirk Cousins, who's currently the quarterback number 25 in rankings right now in terms of value, which I think is a little low again. And Trey Lance, who's like quarterback number 60, which is crazy for a guy that is so young. He's like 23 years old, guys. He will have another chance in the NFL, 100%. I got both of them for the 107. So in a Superflex league. So I'm just saying you can get them pretty cheap right now. And, the 107 in a Superflex, that's around the J.J. McCarthy range. That's why I'm kind of comparing these two these two guys to him. Excuse me, I got a little bit of that cold still in my lungs. All this talking is really wrecking my lungs. So this is all for you guys. Again, please like the video, help me out here. But yeah, I just think that it's going to be more valuable to go and get a Russ or a Cousins or a Lance and see what happens versus drafting a McCarthy and hoping that he's going to hit. And yeah, man, the McCarthy hype train is insane to me. So that's a video for another day. All right, let's go over to the running back position. There's a lot. And I was writing down the list of free agent running backs, and man alive, this is going to be a crazy. People are not excited about this rookie draft class. It's a good thing that it happens after the free agency, because Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, the Gus Bus, Gus Edwards, Alexander Madison, Devin Singletary, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Zach Moss. This is your list of notable running backs, and there's a few more that are out there that I didn't even write down here, but holy cow, these guys, there's so many guys here. Derrick Henry, if I had to give a prediction, I think Derrick Henry is going to be going to the Baltimore Ravens or the Dallas Cowboys, one of the two. I think Tony Pollard will go to the other one. Saquon Barkley, I think that there's a very good chance that he goes to the Texans or the Cowboys. If Henry doesn't go, I think Henry's going to be a Baltimore Raven. I think Barkley's going to be a Dallas Cowboy. And I think Tony Pollard is probably going to be a New York Giant. I think those guys are kind of just going to switch up a little bit. Nobody's going to Tennessee. They're not going to bring in another guy, so don't have to worry about that. Josh Jacobs, I do think they work out something with him in Las Vegas. He's going to stay there. Austin Eckler, this one's a little bit more curious. I think he's ultimately going to go to the Chiefs. He wants to win, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a free agent, but when you look at the skill set that Jerick McKinnon is pretty much gone now at this point in time as well. So Austin Eckler gives the Chiefs a very dynamic threat that is very complementary to what's his face, their hypey little running back, Isaiah Pacheco, that's the name. Yep, there we go. But him and Austin Eckler and Isaiah Pacheco is a very solid 1-2 punch. So I think Austin Eckler is ultimately going to be a Chief. Man, if I had to rank these guys, because these are kind of the top guys, right? 1 through 5. Let's assume that all my landing spots are correct, and I'm the oracle of all oracles, that Derrick Henry's with the Ravens, Jacobs is with the Raiders, Barkley is the Cowboys, Pollard is a Giant, and Eckler is a Chief. If I was going to rank them, I think I'd rank Henry as number 1, because Henry in that Baltimore offense, I think he runs for 2K again. I think he's just going to be dominant, and I don't care that he's old. He is a freak of nature. So, until he shows signs of slowing down, I'm not going to bet on that. So give me Derrick Henry as number 1. I think Barkley is the number 2, Jacobs is the number 3, Eckler is the number 4, and Pollard as the number 5. And that might be surprising because Eckler with the Chiefs, I just said it was a great landing spot. Well, him and Pacheco, I don't think he's going to get the running work that he would normally get in the olden days with the Chargers, right? He's going to get a lot more of the passing down work that is great with the Chiefs, but I don't think his volume is going to be high enough to be extremely fantasy relevant. I think he'll be definitely like a mid RB2 with the potential with touchdowns and everything to be an RB1, but I just don't think the volume is going to be there for Eckler. And then Pollard with the Giants, Pollard, he was hard to tell because he was very bad this year, but then he started to come on towards the end. Maybe it was just that leg. He had the broken leg that, everyone kind of seemed to forget about. So maybe he's finally healthy, but I could see them taking a stab on him in the Big Apple, New York. You look at the rest of these guys, though, that's where it's going to be fun. J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift. I think Swift ultimately goes back to the Eagles. J.K. Dobbins, I have no idea. There's the video that's out there, if you haven't seen it yet, that he's kind of back running again, straight line with the Achilles tear, and it's kind of like he's on the Cam Akers recovery track at this point. I'm very happy for him, and I'm rooting for J.K. Dobbins. I just don't know if I trust him again. If you can get J.K. Dobbins for a third or a fourth rounder in your leagues, I would do it and just see what happens, but I do not trust him at all. A.J. Dillon, he's just a bruising back that's not very good. I think Moss ultimately comes back to the Colts. I know the Colts have done a lot of meetings at the combine, though, on the running backs. They had in Braylon Allen, they had in Jonathan Brooks, they had in Blake Corum. So I would not be shocked if they draft somebody in round 3 or 4 of this upcoming draft. So something to keep an eye on. But if Moss does leave the Colts, I don't know where the landing spots are. Like Gibson, it all depends where he goes. Moss depends where he goes. Clyde, I don't think he's got any value. But Devin Singletary, if he goes back to the Texans, all of a sudden you're like, man, this could be really good. I know that everyone wants like a Saquon Barkley to be the Tennessee or with the Texans, but man, they just get Devin Singletary back. You replace the other guy, the Damian Pierce with an Antonio Gibson. Ooh, baby, Gibson's value I think would be much, much higher. So it's going to be interesting to see where these guys go, but I don't really have many predictions because the running back position is just hard to value. There's so many teams that I could see them making an offer, but after that big 5, I think it kind of falls off a little bit there. So we'll see who ultimately signs these guys. We'll do videos about them after the free agency period, but it's going to be very interesting to see where they land. Wide receiver has a few names, but it is not a good year to need a wide receiver. Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown with the Cardinals is a free agent. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver from the Jags, formerly the Falcons, he's a free agent as well. And then Gabe Davis are the headliners on this class. A few other names, Tyler Boyd, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, DJ Chark, Mecole Hardman. There's a few other guys, but really it's the big 3 at the top. And then after that, Tyler Boyd's probably the best one of the rest of them, and I don't really care about anybody else outside of those guys. Hollywood, it's hard to say where he's going to go. I've seen a lot of rumors of him going to the Chiefs. Chiefs are linked to pretty much every rookie wide receiver, every free agent wide receiver. Like Gabe Davis has been linked to the Chiefs. Like they're just not the type that's going to spend a lot of money. And I don't know if Hollywood or Gabe Davis or Calvin Ridley are going to want to sign somewhere that's not going to get them a boatload of money, right? So it's hard to say where they're going to go. There's so many teams that could really use a wide receiver. The Patriots, for example, if you look at some of the other teams in the NFL, you've got teams like the Bills could use another guy behind Stephon Diggs. You've got the Jets could use another guy with Garrett Wilson. The Cowboys could use another guy. The Giants need everybody. The Eagles don't really need one. The Bears could use another guy. A lot of people are linking them to Rome Odunze, for example, at 9. The Lions could use another guy potentially. If Jameson, it depends what they believe in Jameson Williams. The Vikings are pretty good. The Ravens are always in that conversation. The Texans could use an upgrade. The Colts could use another guy with Michael Pittman. I think they ultimately bring Pittman back and have a long-term contract with him. You've got the Chiefs obviously linked to everybody. The Broncos are an interesting one. They don't really have a lot of money. So here's the problem with the Broncos, talking about the Russ thing, right? They have $85 million dead cap over the next 2 years. It's like $50 million this year, $35 million next year. So they're going to be cash strapped for a long time. They're probably getting rid of Courtland Sutton. They're probably getting rid of Jerry Jeudy. And they're probably going to take like day 3 picks. They're going to take like a 4th or a 3rd for both of those guys, whatever they can get at this point in time. They're going to have no receivers, but they have no money to really bring those guys in. So it's going to be Marvin Mims and like maybe somebody in the draft. It's going to be interesting to see where they ultimately go to fix this offense up. But the Broncos could low-key use somebody. Maybe they sign somebody with a backloaded contract over there with a big signing bonus or something like that. I mean, they got Walmart money, so they can afford the upfront costs at least. The Chargers, everybody's linking them. I don't see the need for the Chargers to bring in another receiver. It just doesn't seem like a Jim Harbaugh type of move. And, when you look at it, they still got Keenan Allen. Michael Mike Williams is not a free agent at this point in time, but I would not be surprised if they don't rework his contract. Everyone thinks that they're just going to cut him, but I think he's going to agree to a pay cut because he's been so banged up over the last couple of years. So I don't think he's going anywhere. The Cardinals could use a guy, but they're linked to Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. It's going to be interesting to see if Godwin's available, for example, from the Bucks. But the Panthers, they need everybody that they can get. The Titans can use everybody that they can get. The Jaguars. So there's quite a few teams. Now, my prediction, I said I'd give some predictions here. So Tyler Boyd, I think he's going to be going to the Tennessee Titans. You look at the connection. Their new head coach was the offensive coordinator for the Bengals with Boyd. I think that DeAndre Hopkins, you've got the Treylon Burks connection. They want to develop Treylon Burks and do something useful, but using Tyler Boyd in the slot is a good patchwork situation for Will Levis this year, just to see if Will Levis is the guy, right? If Treylon Burks can stay healthy, you've got DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, and potentially Treylon Burks on the other side. That's not a bad trio of wide receivers. Gabe Davis, I think he's going to go to I think Gabe Davis is ultimately going to go to the Carolina Panthers. And my reasoning behind that is they need a outside guy. And they're going to take as many of these guys as they can get. If they can get 2 of them, they would be thrilled with it. But he wants to go somewhere where he's going to get utilized and he's going to be the main featured guy. Well, there's no better place to do that than the Carolina Panthers. So if you want to go somewhere and be someone who's going to get 150 targets, Panthers are the best place. So I think Gabe Davis is going to go to the Panthers. Calvin Ridley, again, I think he's going to go to the Patriots. Again, you want to go somewhere where you can get peppered with targets. I don't know who the quarterback is going to be. I would not be shocked if Mac Jones comes back for one more year just to see if they can get it to work out with him. Because I don't know if there's a big market on him out there from a trade perspective, but we'll see what ultimately happens there. If we go Jaden Daniels, signing a Calvin Ridley to be his number 1 target, or Drake May, for example, would be not bad in my book. So we have a lot of money, and Calvin Ridley is 29 years old, and he's just hitting free agency for the first time. So he wants a big payday, and I think the Patriots are a team that can give him that for sure. And then the last guy is just going to be Hollywood Brown. He's another guy I think wants a big contract. But then you look at if the other 2 guys ultimately go to the Panthers and the Patriots, I would not be shocked if the Panthers offered a big boatload of money to Hollywood Brown to bring him in as well. I don't know if that's ultimately where I'd put my money, to be honest with you, but I could see the Colts being a big player in his market as well. The Texans would be a very good landing spot for him. Or even, you look at the New York Giants. New York Giants, his name is Hollywood Brown, right? Going to the Big Apple, the big city in New York, he kind of fits their mold. He's a smaller guy, really, really quick. It just makes a lot of sense. And, it's not good for the team, but I would say my bet is New York for sure, either the Giants or the Bills. One of those 2 teams. We'll see ultimately who goes where he goes. But if I had to put money on it, I would say the Giants is their number 1 target this offseason. All right, then last position, everybody's favorite, obviously, is the tight end position. Not too many notable names that are going to be free agents this year, which is kind of a good sign. I think that the tight end position is getting a lot better for football and fantasy football in particular. I do think that, teams are starting to feature these guys a little bit more. Now, the number 1 guy in my list on the free agency is Hunter Henry from the Patriots. I do think that we re-sign him. Again, we have a ton of money. Hunter Henry's been a reliable player for this team. Gerard Mayo's seen him a lot, and I think that he's going to want to bring him back. And if we pay him a lot of money, again, I think we paid him the highest tight end contract at the time when we signed him a couple years ago. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't bring him back as well. Just knows the players, the personnel, everything. So it's just kind of bringing him on back home and utilizing him there. Logan Thomas with the Commanders is a free agent. They re-signed they signed Zach Ertz, so he's not going back there. Gerald Everett with the Chargers is a free agent. This is why I think that the Chargers are in play for Brock Bowers at 5 overall. And a lot of people think that's crazy, but I just think Gerald Everett's going to be a Charger, man. Or I think that Brock Bowers is going to be a Charger. It just fits the Harbaugh mindset way too much. Gerald Everett, where he's going to go, this is where it gets tough. Like, I don't know who wants a quarterback or a tight end in the league. You look at a lot of these teams. The Giants could use a guy. I don't know about the Panthers. Obviously, they could use any pass catcher that they could get. The Rams could use an upgrade, in my opinion. Seattle's losing basically all of their tight ends, so they might bring one of these guys back as well. The Chiefs could use some backup behind Kelsey if Kelsey ultimately steps down. He has a lot of time before the start of the year, man. He could ultimately go retire, but I don't think so. They're going to go for that three-peat. Again, the Broncos are low-key a team that could use one pretty badly. The Colts are another team. A lot of people are linking Brock Bowers to the Colts at 15, but that's never going to happen. It's not going to happen, guys. The Steelers could use one. The Bengals could use one. So there's quite a few landing spots. I don't know how these teams view the position, though, because quite a few of them don't really prioritize these guys. So Gerald Everett, he's not really somebody that I'm interested in from a fantasy perspective before free agency. Noah Fant is another guy. Noah Fant's a little bit more interesting just because he's young. I would not be shocked if the Seahawks try and bring him back, but that never really made sense to me. He was not a scheme fit for the Seahawks because the Seahawks want their tight ends to be pass blockers. Noah Fant, coming out of college, he was in the same school as T.J. Hawkinson, and they were completely different skill sets. Noah Fant is the Evan Ingram skill set, the Kyle Pitts skill set. He's not a blocking first guy. He can do it, but it's just not what he's the best at. He's more of a receiving threat. And we saw times in Seattle where, they would get him the ball and he would blow up for big plays, but it was just not consistent. And I think part of that is the way that Seattle has used the tight end position the last couple of years is a primarily pass blocking guy or run blocking guy, just blocker. And, they kind of leak out and get some targets that way. And it just never really meshed with Noah Fant's skill set. And I think that was a misuse of the player. So I think he could go somewhere where they could maybe make him more of a potential receiving target. Again, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be a terrible landing spot. The Commanders, if they brought him in to pair with the rookie that they're going to end up taking, whoever that might be, the Panthers. So I think there's a few landing spots out there that he could definitely go to that would be very valuable from a fantasy perspective. So he's just a name to keep your eyes on as we go forward, and just don't completely write him off yet. He was a very talented guy. Tight end 27, only 26 years old. So potentially still something there. Another young guy to keep an eye on is Harrison Bryant he was with the Cleveland Browns. Very talented tight end coming out, but ultimately never really got to showcase much on the field because he was always behind David Njoku. I want to see where he goes and if he can get a potential starter's role, because he was always someone who showed a few flashes here and there, but again, was behind David Njoku, and the team paid a lot of money to Njoku. So they were not ever going to make Harrison Bryant the feature of this offense. They wanted to feature David Njoku. So just a name to keep on your radar. And if he goes somewhere good, man, he's someone that I think could be really, really sneaky for fantasy football. So just keep your eyes out for Harrison Bryant. And the last guy is Adam Troutman from Denver. Ultimately didn't do much this last couple of years, but he's been a name that's been around for a while now. So, we'll see what he can ultimately do, but not a great tight end class, not a great rookie class as well. So if you're desperate, there's not too many teams that desperately need a tight end, but again, Hunter Henry is definitely the marquee name in this group of tight ends. So that is the free agents that are coming up this upcoming weeks. Let me know your thoughts on these guys if there's anybody that I missed. But, again, I'm flying solo here, so hopefully you guys give me a little bit of grace here. I'm still a little sick myself, so hopefully you guys enjoy this content. It's been a while since I've done a solo pod this long. My throat is about to kill me, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this content. Please follow me again on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, the podcast at FF After Dark. Podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple, Google, wherever podcasts are found. If you can, just one last time, comment on the video. Want to hear your feedback. We want to hear from you guys. We always love to hear from you guys. Comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Just helps us. We want to help you. Hit us up with any questions you guys might have, and we'll see you guys next time. So until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?